What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So, Michigan State football has their final opportunity to get a win in this 2025 college football season on Saturday, 7 o'clock on FS1 in Ford Field, unfortunately, against Maryland. Absolutely hate that they moved this game to Ford Field for the second time now. But, and you look at Michigan State, obviously, now on a 8-game losing streak, on the brink of potentially going 3-9 for the second time in the last decade. Obviously talking about that 2016, but obviously this is a lot different than that 2016 team as well. Different circumstances over the last couple years as well. This is your last opportunity to get a Big Ten conference win. Get a win in general. Yeah, there's still a lot to play for in this one. Obviously, you want to play for the seniors, their last time in a Michigan State uniform, especially the guys that have been around here, for a while. But I mean, obviously, even the transfers that have came in that are going to be that are seniors, going to be playing their last college game as well. You want to play for those guys. You want to go out on the right note. So you look at it, Michigan State 0-8 in the conference, 3-8 overall. We know that, but you look at Maryland and kind of just general overview of them. 4-7 overall on the year. They're only one game ahead of us though. They are 1-7 overall in the Big Ten conference, and their last win actually coming a week after Michigan State's last win. Michigan State's last win September 13th. And Maryland's last win September 20th. A week later at Wisconsin, that was a 27-10 win. Obviously, Wisconsin right in there as well, not having a good season there in Madison either. But since then, they are on a 7-game losing streak. You look over the couple, and they've had 2 to 3 close games, but the last couple weeks have kind of been blowouts. They had close games in October against Washington, against Nebraska, UCLA. But then they lost by about 45 points to Indiana. They lost 15 to Rutgers as well. You lose to, about 18 to Illinois. Then you lose by 25 to that school down the road. So Michigan State has been in some close games over the last couple months. They've only had really 2 kind of big blowouts. Everything else has been fairly close for them. But so at the end of the day, it's 2 teams at the bottom of the Big Ten fighting to get one more win on the year for the seniors for these teams. But anyway, we're going to jump into this game. But first, if you could just hit that like and subscribe button down there. A little more Michigan State football content on the channel. Obviously, the end of the season is here. Kind of what's going to happen. Still have no answer if Jonathan Smith is still going to be the coach next year, if going to go in a different direction. Have heard absolutely nothing. And I've kind of made up my decision a couple weeks ago. I have said all year long, I said, I mean, yeah, I think he should get an extra year, but I understand why, if you were to move on from him, why you would. And I understand why the fan base wants to move on from him. But I kind of made up the decision a couple weeks ago, kind of really after the Minnesota game, especially the Penn State game, though. I was just like, if nothing has happened now, then he's going to be back on the sidelines next August. I mean, it's just I think it'll be easier if everyone just accepts that that's what's going to happen. And unfortunately, we could possibly be in the same situation next October, or you truthfully do look at it and it's like, okay, they made some investments in some of the guys that they brought in this year. Now it's about retaining them and then adding some more depth to the other positions. Because if you even have a little bit more depth, I think, at offensive line, maybe an impact player at the defensive line, edge rusher, and then some maybe more depth there, and then the secondary as well. I do think that some of these kind of toss-up games turn out a little bit different. Like just the ones that I think for sure turn out differently when you look back at the schedule. I think Nebraska turns out differently. I think the game against that school down the road turns out differently. Minnesota definitely, and probably Penn State and Iowa too. Those are all games that I think for sure turn out differently. And then USC, that one wasn't a blowout either. That one was one that you can look at. So they're not that far off, and that's not something you want to hear. And I'm not saying they would have won all those games, but if you have an impact player off the edge to help get to the quarterback, help stop the run, whatever, because that's what Michigan State has been getting gashed in. But if you have those impact players, you have depth on the offensive line. So your quarterback has time sitting back there, can make plays, create holes for your running backs. Then things probably turn out differently this year, but that hasn't been the case. But that's kind of how I see it. Just kind of setting the expectation. But if something is going to happen, and he is going to be, there is going to be a new coach here in East Lansing, then I expect it to probably happen either Saturday night, Sunday morning. But we'll obviously be back to recap this game as well, talk about all that. But then also we have signing day coming soon, transfer portal, what stuff's going to happen there. But so a little more Michigan State football content on the channel is basically the gist of it. So just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. But we'll jump into Maryland here. Malik Washington, pretty mobile quarterback for them. Can throw it a little bit too, but definitely a dual threat guy for them. On the year, about 2,500 yards, over 2,500 yards, only 57% completion percentage, 14 touchdowns compared to 8 interceptions on the year. Only sacked 6 times, so solid from the offensive line, but some of that he can also elude the pocket as well, and elude the pass rush, should I say. You look at him on the ground, 49 carries, 285 yards, but 4 touchdowns as well. Has half of their rushing touchdowns, leads them individually. On the ground. You look at DeJuan Williams for them, 123 carries, their lead back, 449 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Nolan Ray, 288 yards on the year, 2 touchdowns. Receiving, they have a couple 500-yard receivers in Shalik Knotts with 578, 5 touchdowns. Octavian Smith Jr. with 500 yards on the dot overall. I always like to look at the tight end, see kind of what's going on there. Dorian Fleming, 37 catches for 316 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's second on the team in touchdowns for them on the year. And you look at their kicking, and they have been 27 for 27. Extra points on the year. They've only missed 2 field goals overall in the year. Missed 1 from 50, 1 from 30 to 39 overall. So solid there. Daniel Wingate for them on defense. Linebacker, absolute tackle machine. 96 tackles, more than 30 more than the next player on the team. He has 1.5 sacks and an interception as well. You go down the list, you got 3 guys in the 60s with tackles as well. 1.5 sacks is second on the team. They had 3 guys with 1.5 sacks. You got Cam Rice on the defensive line and Ian Thomas on the defensive line as well to go with Daniel Wingate. But then you have a couple guys with 2. You have Dylan Fontes, defensive lineman, and Nasir Taylor on the defensive line with 2 as well. 27 from a team, so solid on the defensive line there. When you look at interceptions, Jalen Husky, defensive back for them, leads them with 4. Le'Veon Scruggs has 2 for them, 3 from Lakai Rowland. Overall, they have 18 as a team, so they are a solid defense on the year. And looking at their numbers, they are a solid defense, but overall they're actually ranked about 20-ish, 30 spots lower than where Michigan State is currently in total defense. Overall on the year, they're about 94th and on the year. But overall, I always like to look at the conversion percentage, third down percentage, 35%. That's definitely towards the bottom third of the country, 39% on 4th down overall for them. And they're averaging about 23 points per game on the year. And surprisingly, that is actually just about the amount that Michigan State is averaging on the year. 23.1 for Maryland, 23.4 for Michigan State. So listen, this one, Michigan State's actually favored. I think the last I checked, favored by like 3.5 in this one. But for this game, I think overall, not to kind of spoil one of my picks here coming up, but I think this is going to be a defensive game overall. But I do think this game will help that it is indoors. Obviously at Ford Field, I hate that the game is at Ford Field and that the game is moved from Spartan Stadium, but I do think that could potentially help the offenses. But look at, we're just being kind of real here. Both these teams obviously out of playoff contention. Obviously the seniors and the teams are going to play and show up. Like, especially, I can't speak to Maryland, but on Michigan State side, we haven't seen any quit in them, even though they are on this 8-game losing streak. They're coming out and playing hard. We've seen that in, their recent performances. They have been right there with opportunities to win a lot of these games, especially over the last month. Really, there's been, every loss is bad, and there's been some bad moments in these losses, but just the game where just like absolutely got blown out. The last one was Indiana, but that didn't even for a half feel like that. It was really just the second half that it felt like that. UCLA was the whole thing. We know that, but Michigan State has definitely been engaged, has not given up at all so far on this season. Even though, obviously, listen, both these teams obviously not playing for much except for, these seniors, these players that are going to be playing their last college game. Obviously, you want to go out the right way, so hope Michigan State can do that in Ford Field. Again, hate that it's there, grateful to be able to go and whatnot, obviously. For me, it's a little bit of a closer drive, and for the people that live in Metro Detroit, it's closer. But I don't care. I'll still always I'll go on my soapbox again for these. I think college games should be played on college campuses, not an hour from East Lansing or an hour from campus in the cushy NFL stadium dome, whatever. But again, just my rant. But listen, that's where we looked at. Would like to kind of erase the taste from the last time we played in Ford Field, and kind of ironic and kind of funny that you fast forward 2 years from the last time we played in Ford Field, and kind of not a lot has changed with the program, but a lot has changed. I think, I think the product on the field is I think the product on the field is better. I don't like when you look back at the team the last time we played at Ford Field. This team is definitely better. They haven't had the results at all, and that's no denying that. But I don't think there's any way you can look at the two teams and not say that the team that's going to trot out there on Saturday and that has trotted out there the last couple weeks is better. Still flaws, which is kind of, weird that we're back in this spot. We're going to Ford Field and kind of a similar-ish feel around the program. But even at that time, you were like excited because you knew a coach. Like we knew we were getting a new coach one way or another. Now it's like kind of up in the air because everyone is, the whole coaching situation. We don't need to go down that road. I have a feeling we're going to have a conversation about this one way or another because we need to answer this weekend whether Jonathan Smith's going to be the coach next year or if someone else is going to be the coach. So I know we'll have that discussion, so I don't want to dive too much into that here. But listen, at the end of the day, last opportunity to go out there and make a mark on this season, get your first win since September 13th. So let's hope Michigan State can do it and go out the right way. But that'll bring us to our last 5 bets for the season. Regular season will probably be back for the playoffs here and, bowl season, whatnot. But last week, 4-1, 33-26 on the year. So we are closing it out strong, hopefully closing out here with this one. First off, going to start out with our game as we always do. Going under 48.5, Michigan State versus Maryland. I'm going under 49.5 in Miami at Pitt. That's a very interesting one as well, but I got under there as well. Then I'm going Ohio State minus 10.5 at that school down the road. Then Vanderbilt, I got them plus 2.5 at Tennessee in that one. And then Bama, I got minus 5.5 at Auburn in the Iron Bowl. But last weekend of the regular season here. And still a lot to be decided here in the Big Ten, specifically Big Ten championship game implications this weekend. Still a handful of different scenarios there. So excited for this weekend of college football, last of the regular season. But anyway, that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.